Hello everyone, and welcome to a very special end-of-year UK Gaming Network podcast. I'm Zoidberg, and this week we're going to take a look back at all the ups and downs from 2019. There's been a definite feel of end of generation about the last 12 months, with both Sony and Microsoft having their eyes on next year, and most of the big releases underwhelming. Games like Rage 2, Far Cry New Dawn, The Division 2, Days Gone, Team Sonic Racing, and Wolfenstein Youngblood all failed to live up to their potential, allowing for original games like Apex Legends, Control, The Outer Worlds and Death Stranding to take the spotlight instead. The end-of-year report card doesn't make for great reading for the big AAA publishers. EA started off the year with Anthem, then had to endure the loot box and gambling controversy around FIFA Ultimate Team, and only just managed to redeem themselves a little with Jedi Fallen Order. Ubisoft suffered one disaster after another, with Ghost Recon Breakpoint being a genuine contender for the year's biggest stinker, and even their best release, Trials Rising, being burdened with unnecessary loot boxes. Activision, on the other hand, had a great year, publishing From Software's Sekiro, bringing back Crash Team Racing, and whatever you think of the franchise, you have to admit that Modern Warfare was the best Call of Duty in years. Meanwhile, Nintendo have continued to just be Nintendo, doing their own thing with the Switch and doing it incredibly well. In addition to having the most interesting selection of first-party exclusives, we also saw seemingly impossible ports of games like The Witcher 3 and Alien Isolation. Also, by introducing the Switch Lite, they made it more affordable and easier to recommend as everyone's second console. This was the year when subscription services began to shine. Apple Arcade launched, offering a platform for fantastic indie games for just $5 a month, but even that pales into significance next to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, which is possibly the best thing to happen in gaming this generation. Sony and PlayStation Now have been playing catch-up ever since in that regard. We wait with bated breath to see what Xbox Series S and PlayStation 5 have to offer next year. Now we move on to our favourite games of 2019. Rather than select a single game of the year like we've done previously, we asked our team to pick the one game that they enjoyed the most over the last 12 months. It will soon be time to reveal our picks, but before we get to those, here are a few honourable mentions. Blazing Chrome. In a year where Konami have celebrated their anniversary with a Contra collection and a brand new entry in the series, it's perhaps very apt that Blazing Chrome made such an impact as well. It bears more than a passing resemblance to the classic run and gun series, but crucially it also understands what made them so good in the first place. The more you play it, the more you begin to see patterns in the enemy attacks, and learn which weapons work best in each level. There's a nice variety between the levels and plenty of challenging boss fights. If you're a Contra fan, you simply have to play this game too. Devil May Cry 5. While we thought there was nothing wrong with Ninja Theory's DMC, Capcom chose to ignore it completely for the long-awaited 5th entry in their bonkers demon-slaying action series. They gave us 3 characters to play, each with distinctly different fighting styles to learn, and then filled the levels with a fantastic gallery of grotesque demons to fight. V in particular is quite unlike any character we've ever seen in the series before, and along with Devil Triggers added a great new dimension to the combat, which remains as deep and rewarding as ever. There's a definite compelling argument to suggest that this is the best game in the series to date.
Opens long, don't cut Titans 2.
Dirt Rally 2.0. Codemasters once again dominated the racing genre in 2019 with F1, Grid and Dirt Rally 2.0, but it was the latest rally simulation that impressed the most. Quite simply, no other racing game requires as much concentration from the player or makes you feel as tense. It's utterly exhilarating to race along the narrow stages, perilously close to cliff edges and trees, but you're going to need to push yourself if you want to win on the higher difficulties. There's a generous selection of car classes and stages to master, and settings that cater for all skill levels. It's just a little disappointing that there's so much DLC, as there are daily challenges that require you to buy some.
3 right, into 3 left.
Tetris 99. In the Great Gaming Archive, there's a section dedicated to game ideas that shouldn't work. Nintendo took a look at the entry marked Tetris Battle Royale and thought, why not give it a go? First and foremost, this plays a fantastic game of Tetris. It just so happens that there are 98 other players intent on ending your game early. Nintendo have given us plenty of reasons to keep playing throughout the year too, with regular updates, extra modes, and best of all, themed events to coincide with the release of first-party games. Our highest finish to date is 2nd place, and whether we'll ever win a game is debatable, but it's tremendous fun trying to do so. Untitled Goose Game. Causing all manner of mischief in a small English town was never meant to be this much fun, but by placing us in the role of an absolute jerk of a goose, Australian developer House House created more genuinely funny moments than any other game this year. It may only take a couple of hours to finish, but there are many hours of additional things to do and discover that you'll want to keep playing. With its recent release on Xbox and PlayStation, don't expect all those goose memes to disappear anytime soon. If there was a more charming game in 2019 than this one, we definitely didn't play it. Hopefully this won't be the last we see of this goose. Now the time has come to announce our Games of the Year for 2019. The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, chosen by UKGN Pad. When we asked one of our founder members to name his Game of the Year, this is what he had to say. When talking about the all-time best game in the Legend of Zelda series, we always end up arguing between Ocarina of Time and Link's Awakening. Personally, I'm always on the side of the classic Game Boy game. It's the only one that gave me goosebumps before I'd even pushed the start button. The atmospheric intro alone, even though short, was enough to hook me into the world of Zelda as a child. Many moons and consoles later, in the age dominated by boring so-called HD remakes of games that were already in HD, Nintendo decided to throw their hat into the ring and show other developers how it should be done. This return to Koholint Island looks and feels like the same game from my childhood, but with a modern spin. Due to the overworld now fully scrolling, rather than the flick screen of the original, I managed to get lost and lose track of where I should be going next, despite having finished the original game many times. The beautiful childlike graphics and softer musical instruments also complement the game perfectly, and it's the only game for a long time that's made me smile for the entire time I spent playing it. While it never gave me the same goosebumps as before, it's a very simple choice for my Game of the Year. Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, chosen by UKGN Teru. Next up, our resident RPG fan, who had this to say about her favourite game. This choice was influenced by my history with From Software games. Usually I put the controller down at the first boss after one too many deaths, with the exception of Bloodborne, where the defeat of Father Gascoigne is still a moment of pride for me. The main issue has always been that despite the rich lore and incredible worlds, it's all stuck behind these supremely challenging enemies, with only a hint of story to guide you forward. Sekiro had a more obvious story right from the start, and doesn't compromise the lore that's been built around it. The benefit to me was being able to get further into the game before getting stuck by a mini-boss. I really appreciated the stealth aspects to whittle down crowds, using the terrain to save myself after the inevitable mistakes I made, and how even after days of progression and thinking I knew what the game was all about, it could still surprise me. I'm talking about you, Guardian Ape. Every challenge I overcame was my own accomplishment, which is why I eventually picked Sekiro for my number one. Despite the brilliance of Fire Emblem Three Houses, I know I won't be referring to it years down the line, whereas my defeat against Ishin will haunt me for the rest of my days. Any game that leaves that type of reaction has no other place but Game of the Year. Yoshi's Crafted World, chosen by UKGN Hetty. Moving on, it's now time for UKGN Hetty to explain her choice. For me, the best game of the year has to be Yoshi's Crafted World on the Switch, which is a fantastic follow-up to Yoshi's Woolly World. It's great value for money because you can play the levels over and over again, but with different missions and perspective each time. It can often feel like a whole new level as a result. Finishing a level and discovering that you've missed loads is surprisingly common, but it's so good you won't mind trying again. The brilliantly cute graphics have an astonishing attention to detail and look almost real at times. The replayability, along with the storyline that hooked me in, made it fun for all the family. I loved the reward system of collecting the hidden flowers to open up new routes and levels, plus there are tons of cute costumes too. As far as I'm concerned, it's another triumph for Nintendo.
She's right behind you.
Resident Evil 2, chosen by UKGN Zoidberg. Finally, we come to my own choice, and when it came to pinning down my own Game of the Year, there weren't honestly that many contenders. Untitled Goose Game was charming but short, Blazing Chrome a pitch-perfect slice of arcade action, and Crackdown 3 was hugely enjoyable and everything that I wanted it to be. But there was one game that I kept coming back to, Capcom's new take on Resident Evil 2. Less of a remake and more an entirely new game with an old story, Leon and Claire's first encounter with Umbrella and the T-Virus is retold with flair and precision, making this arguably the best game in the franchise. The RE engine produced some of the best graphics of this generation. If you thought Resident Evil 7 looked good, it's nothing compared to this. We're talking cutscene quality characters in-game, fantastic environments, and some of the most gloriously icky gore effects I've ever seen in a game. There are very few games that ever hold my attention long enough to complete them, but the fact that I've played it through to the end with both characters and I'm still not bored tells you everything that you need to know. It's a game that's the perfect length and doesn't outstay its welcome, and with the bonus play modes that can be unlocked, I'll probably still be coming back to it for a long time to come. And that's it. Those were our choices for the best games of 2019. Now we end the show by announcing our retro re-release of the year. Go to any digital storefront on any system and you'll find literally dozens of retro re-releases vying for your attention. But one release in the past year has stood out over all others. Virtua Racing for the Nintendo Switch. You simply won't find a better version of the Sega Racer outside of an arcade. Produced by conversion specialists M2, this features full 1080p resolution and 60 frames per second gameplay, and it looks fantastic on your TV. On top of that, there's the miracle of 8-player split screen too. If you have enough Joy-Cons and friends, it's an absolute blast. All 3 tracks from the arcade original have been perfectly recreated, and the 20-lap Grand Prix mode allows you to perfect your lap times for the online leaderboards. For just under £6, it's an absolute bargain. Now, if only somebody can persuade M2 to do the same thing with either Daytona USA or Scud Race, we'd be eternally grateful. That brings an end to this week's show, and 2019 itself. What were your favourite games of the year? Let us know in the comments. If you've enjoyed listening to our opinions, give us a like and subscribe to make sure you don't miss the new episodes every Friday at 7 PM. We'll be back next week with our first episode of 2020, including a fantastic giveaway to say thank you for helping us reach 3,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel. Until then, thanks for listening. Follow us on social media at UK Gaming Network. Have yourselves a great new year, and we'll see you soon.